Welcome, everyone. I am Antoine Wade, the founder of Black Heights, Inc., where we focus on preparing African Americans for upward mobility in management and leadership positions globally. We do this by training, coaching, and bringing exposure to young African Americans. And today, I have another episode of the podcast on their journey, and I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Miss Essence Nance. And Essence is a manager of revenue of accounting for E2 Open. And during her 3-year tenure, she's gotten the responsibility to oversee all of the accounts receivable and revenue operations for the entire company, including 11 revenue generating subsidiary entities. Essence is from Austin, but is currently based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, on a 2.5 year assignment. She's worked at 4 Point LLC as well as KPMG. And Essence holds a master's degree in professional accounting from the University of Texas, Austin. So she's a Longhorn. And she did her undergrad at Hampton. And in her free time, she enjoys doing a little bit of traveling, mentoring, and spending time with her family. So let's welcome Essence Nance to the podcast. And Essence, let's kick this thing off. I would like to jump into a whole bunch of questions because this is going to make a very good conversation, a professional conversation about moving and on your journey through corporate America. So let me just kick this off with asking you, tell everyone where you are from.
So I am born and raised in Austin, Texas. Been there all of my life. All the way through high school until I went to Hampton in Virginia. So first time away from home was when I went to college, but born and raised in Austin.
Very good, very good. Hot Austin, that's what it is, but it's a fantastic city. Just tell the audience, what are you an expert at? If you was kind of sum up where you were an expert at, kind of tell the audience, what are you expert at, you think?
Okay, so I didn't necessarily choose my expertise, but I ended up being an expert at software revenue accounting, which randomly happened after I left KPMG. It was more so, okay, yeah, I want to go industry, but I didn't pick an industry. It was just kind of like, where was I going to land? And I ended up being at ForcePoint, which is a software company. In revenue, and then after I left ForcePoint, I ended up at E2 Open in revenue. So expertise in revenue accounting, which for people who don't know is pretty much keeping track of when a company actually earns their money. You know, there's accounting guidelines that you have to follow when you can actually say, hey, we've actually earned this, we can recognize the revenue, and I keep track of all of that for the entire company, along with my team, of course.
Very good. Wonderful. So tell everyone what you majored in at Hampton University.
So majored in accounting in undergrad and grad school.
Wow. So in a way, although you ended up in this professional field, you kind of went to school for it as well, too, though.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, you can say, accounting is so broad. I could have went in any type of industry, or even in grad school, like a UT, in their Masters of Accounting program, you have to pick, do you want to do, what's your focus going to be? Is it going to be audit, tax, IT, et cetera? And my focus at UT was audit. So I did end up going into audit right out of grad school. So kind of in the sense, yeah, I definitely know I was going to be in finance for sure, but I didn't necessarily say, hey, software is where it is.
Makes sense. That makes sense. And tell everyone how your undergrad really prepared you for what you're doing today. And the follow-up question too, if you want to just make it a two-part question is, what about grad school as well? Because, what I find is, a lot of folks with an undergrad, they're really prepared, to come into the corporate world and work, but some people in different fields may not be as prepared. For example, I major in management information systems with a computer science minor, and we did, coding in another language. And then when I came into professional world, I was prepared to code, but it was not in the language that I typically learned within, our school program. So just tell people how your undergrad and your master's prepared you for the corporate world and your experience there.
Well, first of all, Hampton is like the best school ever.
It is a good school, a really good school. Another HBCU, guys. Another wonderful HBCU.
The best HBCU. Well, first of all, my choice going to Hampton was very random, but it ended up being like one of the best decisions ever. Getting away from home, going to a HBCU. Hampton, if you don't know, is a private school. So the classroom is a smaller campus than any public school, which means like the classrooms are probably like 30 students in one class versus when I went to UT and there's 100+ students in each class. So having that more of a family style knit, you really could sense that your teachers care for you. Like you can have one-on-one sessions with them at any time. They knew all the students by name. It was a real like family type of scenario. And even when it came to like career fairs, I can say that even like my recruits from KPMG or Ernst & Young or any of those places, they were like a family, and they all like helped me from the time I was at Hampton all the way till I was a full-time employee. So building that network was like very, very important. Even when I got to the point to where I was applying for grad school, the dean of the School of Business at Hampton, he was like, "Oh, where did you apply to?" "Oh, don't worry about it, you in there." So like having those connections, building those like networks, even with your friends. Like my friends are accountants, they're lawyers now, they're pharmacists. So just having those networks, even within, not even my professors, but even just with my circle of friends. So that was major. With UT, it was a totally different feel, way larger school. Although I was born and raised in Austin, it was a totally different atmosphere. Larger campus, recruiting was totally different. Luckily, I had already gotten recruited before I went to grad school. But the most important thing with UT was the network, because UT rings bells in Texas, or like even nationwide, but definitely in Texas, the school name rings bells. And so if you have those connections and those networks, I mean, even till this day, I can say, oh, hey, like when I went to KPMG, our office was literally split between Texas A&M alumni and UT alumni.
Wow.
So, just, I think either way, the networking was a big thing. They always say it's not about what you know all the time, but who you know. Who you know is going to get you there, what you know is going to keep you there.
Yep. That's great. That is wonderful. Now you're living on the other side of the world, and I think, your audience, or the audience, would love to hear about how did this opportunity come up. So I think we mentioned it earlier, but Essence is living in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Kuala Lumpur is the capital of Malaysia, and she is on a secondment at this point in time. She's an emerging leader with E2 Open. Tell everyone how this opportunity came up.
Does your audience know that you just moved from here as well?
We will have a podcast where somebody's interviewing me. Maybe it's you. So, let's talk about Essence opportunity. How did it come up for you?
So it was actually very, very random. Well, my CFO was in town, because he's not based in Austin. He was in town one week, and he texted me. I was at track practice because I coach a AAU summer track team. I was at track practice during the summer, and he texted me and said, "Hey, I'm out to eat with my direct boss, two of the bosses. and we're at Fleming's. Can you meet us here in the next 30 minutes? And I said, sure, I'm at track practice. We're about to wrap up. I'll be there in a few. So he ended up texting me and my colleague to meet them there, and was like, we got there and was like, okay, what's going on? And he's like, well, we were sitting here chatting and we thought that it would be a good idea for one of you guys to move to Malaysia, whether it's 6 months or 2 years. And that's exactly how he delivered it. So we're just like, what? And so, I mean, he always has these just random thoughts and ideas, and that's how it came about. So we was like, he's like, you know, I want one of you guys to like build up the accounting team over there. You know, we have our office over there, but it's not really for finance. We build up the team. You can go over there, hire people, train them, etc. If one of you is interested and not the other, that person will automatically go. If not, if both of you guys are interested, then we'll interview you, see who's the better fit. Well, I ended up being the person that was interested, and the other person wasn't so interested because he had like a significant other he had to consider and all that type of stuff. I'm not married, I don't have any kids. My response was, one, when do I need to tell you by? He said, the end of the week. And so not much time to think about it. And then secondly, I was like, I need to talk to my dad and I need to talk to my nephew because I'm super close to my nephew. It's like my baby brother / son. I'm at all of his football games, basketball games. My dad was on a cruise that week. So I was just like, let me talk to them. I'll let you know. And then I said, well, if I decide to move, when would you want me to move? He's like, next week if you could, but realistically, you can move in a month or two. I was like, okay, I need to finish the track season and then I'll move. And then here I am, 14 months later.
Wow. What an amazing story. You know, we got about 3 people in the chat, and I haven't seen any chats come through yet, but let us continue to kick on. That means we got a little audience, Essence. That's what we have. You kind of talked about your father, asking him, and then your nephew, who's like a son, brother to you. What were some hesitancies about moving to Kuala Lumpur, right? There's a lot of times when people get opportunities that comes up, there are lots of hesitancies that comes up. What were some for you when you made the decision or when you got the opportunity to go to Kuala Lumpur?
So the biggest hesitancy was one, safety, and then 2, family. I feel like my family was probably more nervous than I was. Because I mean, I went to undergrad away from home, so that was 4 years away from being home. And then I don't know if you know, but I did a internship. My last summer internship with KPMG was in South Africa. So I was in South Africa for a month. So it's not like I had never been just away, but it was just the actual fact of like moving, being away from everybody after they had gotten so used to me being around, and then like, hey, is everything safe? So I obviously never been to Malaysia before I moved here, came to look for kind of. So I was like, I have no idea. I know nothing about this place. Let me start Googling some things. I had talked to you because they recommended you were here, and to talk to you, and he was like, oh, the crime here is nothing. You might have to worry about, I don't know, maybe a pickpocket here and there, but that's the major crime. I was like, oh, I'm good then.
Yeah, it's a fascinating city, Kuala Lumpur is, and the crime is very low compared to what you would typically find in a major city in like the United States, right? Where there's guns and stuff like that, and a lot of crazy things happening. People were surprised that being in another country, how just from the fear of there's a fear because they don't know. And I think that's what a lot of Americans have, right? Is, oh, I'm going somewhere. I remember the first time I told some folks that I was actually going to Malaysia, and they were like, Anton, are you going to live in huts? Are you going to, get in some, trouble? I think one of the biggest things they said, is that they have really hard laws about just about anything, spitting on the sidewalk and you get caned and stuff like that. And that stuff are draconian laws, but I don't think the caning stuff like that happens for the spitting. Maybe that's more Singapore, but there's less of a fear in Malaysia, and I felt completely safe there, more than I did in places like sometimes Austin or places like Chicago in certain areas, right? Don't get me wrong, these cities are absolutely fantastic and they're safe, but there's times when there could be a bit of fear in some of these major U.S. cities. And in Malaysia, at least Kuala Lumpur, I've been out and haven't had one issue happen to me the entire 2.5 years that I was there. And what's your experience there? That's the same for you?
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's so funny, like, even when I'm like Ubering around or just talking to people and they're kind of like, first of all, they always ask about Donald Trump. And then their next thing is like they always ask about guns and stuff. And I'd be like, especially in Texas, anybody can carry a gun. It's just open carry. And it's like, it's so hard to get a gun here. And there's like, but I guess that's the reason why we hear about schools and churches getting shot up and stuff. I was like, you know what? That makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's definitely very safe. I've had no incidents.
Very good, very good. Let's talk about you as a woman business professional and getting an opportunity like this to, lead a team in Malaysia. How has Malaysia treated you as an, young African-American business professional since you've been there for the last 14 months? Talk about that.
Well, Malaysia's treating me great. I'm loving it over here, first of all. As a business professional, so there's two sides to that. There's the outside of work and then there's in the office work, right? Outside of work, nobody looks at me and thinks that I'm a business professional. I mean, I don't know if I look that young or what, but they always assume I'm here being a student. And then I'd be like, no. And then they were like, oh, are you working? And I was like, yeah. And they asked me what I do. And they're like, oh, you're a manager. And then like the whole tone of the conversation changes. And then from in the office type of perspective, the culture is totally different here compared to, I guess, what I'm used to in our Austin office, to where in our Austin office, it doesn't matter what your title is. We're all one team. We're all I can walk into the CFO, the CEO's office and just have an open conversation. And it's nothing, which it should be that way at all times. But here is more so where they think title plays a role, to where I'm trying to break that out of my team, to where they're like, oh, I shouldn't go up to, the CFO and ask him this question. Well, let me talk to Essence about it first. And I'm like, no, we should have an open door policy. He should be able to ask you a question and you should be able to ask him a question. But here title plays a major thing, which is like the biggest thing I've noticed here. But they definitely respect me. I mean, the whole team is very smart, but I guess me coming from the US, they just like, oh, Essence. It's a different type of culture, even though it's within the same company.
Yeah. Well, I found it very different when I first moved there. And what I mean by that is getting an opportunity to kind of lead the entire office and also have my responsibilities. That's a large organization that I had. And, doing that from the US, you kind of just have the US mentality about, okay, you can push more work down. You can have a lot of conversations with people and communicate as effective as it can. There may not need to be a lot of presence. What I mean by that is, today we live in a virtual world, right, where you can do Skype calls and things like that. What I found in Malaysia is that presence really mattered. Seeing the team there, seeing you in action and representing them, it's really important to the culture there. And you're right, titles do play a huge role into a lot of that. I think there could be, there's just a big difference when it comes down to who's going to be the person that speaks up for the office. And typically in the US, it's anybody, right? Like you mentioned, you can go to, our CEO or CFO's office and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is a problem that I have. Hey, let me try to solve it. Let me ask you for advice to solve it. Whereas in Malaysia, the expectation is if you're the leader, or at least the person with the highest title within that office, it's you, right? They're channeling that information up versus it being autonomy to go and do it yourself. So that's the main difference that I had or that I saw when I first moved there. And I think over a month or two, I was able to really realize that and kind of stepped into that role of being that person that things were filtered through, but also doing, like you mentioned, was coaching to really show that the team does have the autonomy to speak up for themselves, but also speak up for the office as well too. So.
Yeah, but I can also say that when the first 6 months I was here, I had to change my managing style just because the culture is different. And I mean, in good ways, it changed me for the better as well. Because in Austin, I can honestly say I probably rarely ever took lunch. I was probably ordering in, or I just went next door to get something, came right back, was eating at my desk. To where here, everybody's gone, right? And then so it's like, yeah, you need a break sometimes. And then also in Austin, to where we're just like, and not even just in Austin, it's a US mentality to where we're just going, working 24/7, like work is life, it has to get done, to where it's like, no, sometimes you need to step back, have your personal time, have your family time, and you need to separate the two. So they've changed me for the better when I had to learn how to manage them. I couldn't be like, hey guys, you need to work until midnight to get this done. They would probably look at me like, girl, are you crazy? I'm about to quit. Where I was used to doing that when I was in Austin.
Right, yeah. No, that's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. You mentioned, Essence, that, Malaysia is treating you very, very well. Talk about that in more depth. Like, what does treating you well mean? Tell the audience about your experience in Kuala Lumpur.
Well, everybody I've met is very friendly. I haven't come across anybody rude. It's very diverse. There's a big population of Chinese, Malaysians, and Indians, and then there's 1% other, right? The Black people, the white people, whoever else. So very small population of like what majority would be in the US, but it's just very diverse. Everybody's very nice and open. There's plenty of things to do here, which I am loving it. Bars, clubs, food, professional networking. There's this website called Internations for people that work abroad. And you can just say, hey, this is where I'm from, this is where I'm living. And it's just a big connection of people who have moved outside of their normal country, and they host events. There's like different groups to where you have like a women's group or a hiking group or whatever you're interested in. So you never really feel like you're alone. Although I moved here alone, I don't have to feel alone because there's always something I could be doing or people I could be out with. So no like major incidents have happened. I mean, besides all the good things that have happened. So no complaints. It's been an amazing experience. It's a great city, great views. Like I can't really say anything bad about it.
Wonderful. Yeah, I see like you have a great view behind you right now. What time is it there, by the way? Tell everyone what time is it?
It's 9:30 p.m.
Very good. It's 5:30 a.m. my time in San Jose. So you talk about Southeast Asia. Where have you been and this is going to the personal side, and there may be a couple other professional sides questions that I have in here, but where have you been in Southeast Asia? Tell people about your traveling experience.
So I've been doing a lot of traveling. It's so cheap to travel over here. I've gone to, so far, because I'm far from being done. I've gone to Phuket, Thailand. I've gone to Singapore. I've gone to Bali, Indonesia. I've gone to Tokyo, Japan. Not in Southeast Asia, but I've gone to Australia probably like 3 months ago, which was amazing. I've gone to Lombok, Indonesia, and Cambodia, Vietnam, and my last trip about 2 weeks ago, I was in the Philippines on Palawan Island, which was amazing. Probably like the most beautiful place I've ever been to. Highly recommend it.
Wow. Well, and tell people why you think that is one of the most beautiful places you've been to.
So I'm a beach person. So it was like the clearest waters, a lot of like hills and mountains, just green and just gorgeous beaches. Like if you have a nice beach, I am in love. And that was like some of the best beaches and islands that I've ever been to. I did a couple of island hopping tours to where they had hidden beaches or hidden lagoons to where like the boat would actually pull up somewhere and then you had to swim out and go under like this rock. And then there's just like a whole beach there or a whole lagoon that you could be chilling out at. So I thought it was like super neat. It's something I've never experienced before or heard of anybody else experiencing outside of the Philippines.
Wow. Very good. We actually do have some people in our chat that actually has questions, and for some reason on my phone, when I was initially looking at it, it did not show the chat. So let me just go through here. This is a question from my sister, Tamara Wade. What was the transition like, especially being a woman of color to Malaysia?
The transition. Let me think back of when I first moved here. It wasn't, I wouldn't say that it was hard. For me, it wasn't hard at all. Just because just in general, being a woman of color in America, being a woman of color in corporate America, you kind of get used to it. Yeah. Like when I was at UT, I was one of maybe 3 Black girls in the whole MPA program. Even at KPMG Austin, I was the only Black person in my office. Same with any other company I work for, being in corporate America, you kind of just get used to it. So being the Black woman in Malaysia, I mean, there's other Black people here that I know where to find them at, but the transition wasn't hard just because being a Black woman in corporate America, that's just how it is, unless you're in a city to where Black people are dominant. So if I was in Houston, I probably would have had a totally different experience working for KPMG because there's a lot of Black professionals at KPMG Houston. Right. So unless I'm in a Chicago or DC or a city like that, that's just what I'm used to. So the transition wasn't hard. Of course, you probably get a little bit more stares here and there being in a totally different country. Everybody's like, they want to ask you where you're from, but not too many people are going to ask you. And then once that one person gets bold enough to ask you, then it's fine. Because then they're probably like, oh, can I take a picture with you?
Yes, they love their pictures over there and a lot of selfies too.
Yeah.
Another question came up is, do you see yourself staying in Malaysia past 2 years or returning back to the US after your job? And if you were to come back to the US, what will you be doing? What would you be looking to do?
That's kind of exactly where the point I'm at right now. I have officially been put on the clock to where I have to tell my bosses by March if I'm going to extend my contract or not. So I have the option to extend, which I'm happy that they're being open about it. So I'm on the clock trying to decide if I'm going to extend or not. I love it being here. Like, honestly, my life is amazing. I wish I could show you guys my rooftop pool and the view from there. But the only thing that would keep me from staying is my family. Like, my nephew is a freshman in high school, so I missed all of his football games this year. I'm going to miss track season. So my family would probably be the only reason I come back. But I mean, other than that, I will probably extend, but I haven't officially said that yet.
Got it. That's I completely understand. It's one of those things where it's like the living abroad. It is an absolutely wonderful experience that a lot of people, if they get the opportunity to take advantage of it or to do it, they should do it, especially if it's in Kuala Lumpur or any other city in Southeast Asia. It's just remarkable, and words cannot explain the experience that a lot of people have when they do this, right? It's growth. It's a career boosting because you do have the international experience, and it looks wonderful in your resume. One more question for one of the people in the chat is, in your work field in general, what was your experience like, especially since it's male dominated? Did you face any obstacles being a woman, especially African-American woman? And I don't think you kind of touched a little bit on it, that you're kind of one of the only. I certainly run across the challenge as well, too. And that's the reason why I created Black Heights. But kind of talk about your experience, because I don't know what that experience is like for a woman. I know what that experience is like for a male. So just talk a little bit about your experience in the world there, Essence.
Being a Black woman in corporate America, it's kind of,
especially it being male dominated, right?
male dominated. In corporate America, yes, male dominated. But I feel like I've seen a balance. Like, no matter what company I was working for, it's been pretty balanced as far as women and men. I mean, corporate America in general is male dominated overall, but I feel like in the last 10 years or so, it's been like shifting.
Yep.
Not necessarily that women are taking over by far, but I think women are more respected. And of course, I've had situations, I'm not going to say that, my life in corporate America has just been perfect. I've encountered different situations to where I felt like people have tried to bully me or like treated me a certain way. And it's all about just how you carry yourself and what your reaction is going to be for the most part. But I can say for where I'm at right now, my leadership team, they don't see color, they don't see that I'm a woman, because we have several women in our finance department that are leaders, but they really respect what we have to say and want us to take that leadership in our role. So I think having those men, because our CEO, CFO, most of our executives are men, but they have a lot of women that work under them that they, we're kind of like their backbone.
Yeah. That's absolutely wonderful. You're absolutely right. We work for an amazing company. I tell people that all the time, the opportunities that we get and, the diversity and inclusion that we represent. We don't talk about it, but we just do it, right? I think that's the biggest thing that companies do, right? It's not talk, it's just action. And, that's the reason why, you and I get opportunities like we've had within the company itself. Switching on to another topic or another question. If you had anything to say to anyone with opportunities to work abroad, what would you tell them?
Just do it. Nike, just do it.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has those fears, right? It could be something so small to where they're scared of spiders, or where they don't want to go skydiving to, hey, I'm moving across the world. I can say that, of course, everybody has those hesitancies. I don't, like I said, I'm not married. I don't have kids. So when I picked up and moved, I literally moved by myself. My family's on the other side of the world, literally. But I wouldn't change anything about it. Like, just do it. It's been the best experience of my life. I promise you, you would never regret it. Even when I went to South Africa, that was the best experience I had until I got here. So just take a chance, leap out on faith, and do it.
Got it. No, that's wonderful. And that's what I tell people all the time too, Essence. I say, just do it, right? There's going to be something you're going to take away for the rest of your life if you do something like that, right? It's always a learning opportunity, and most people don't have the opportunity to do it.
Right.
What do you do?
I can say that when the opportunity came about, like I said, it was so random, but just to know that my work performance, spoke for itself, and that my boss felt that he put his faith in me and gave me the opportunity. I never said, hey, I'm interested in international work or travel or anything like that. It's just like, hey, we know you're more than capable. We want to give you this opportunity. So just do what you have to do, and your work will speak for itself. And then people will have their faith and put it in you.
That's true. Absolutely. What do you do on your free time? Tell the audience, what do you do on your free time?
I travel. Anytime there's an extended weekend, because in Malaysia there's holiday. They celebrate everybody's holidays. We get the Indian holidays, the Malay holidays, the major U.S. holidays. So in September, there's literally a holiday. There's an extended weekend every weekend. So I was literally going somewhere different every weekend. So anytime I get a chance, I am traveling somewhere in Southeast Asia, just even if it's a quick weekend on the beach, and just literally I go out of my hotel and be on the beach all day and do it all over again the next day. Also, but outside of, there are so many rooftop bars here. The views are amazing at all of them. So I go out sometimes, and I'm not gonna lie, I go out a lot. But even I mentioned earlier that I coach. Before I moved here in Austin, I was an AAU summer track coach for the Austin Honey Badgers. And although I'm not there coaching anymore since I'm here, I still keep in touch with all of my kids to, mentor them, talk them through anything, because I can say that a lot of them, they don't feel comfortable talking to their parents about certain things. I was the young coach that they wanted to talk to, they went to for advice and all that type of stuff. So I didn't want to leave and then they felt abandoned or anything. So I still keep in touch with all my track kids and, keeping them along until I get to go back and visit them.
Wonderful, wonderful. So how do you balance that with work, being a manager, being abroad, away from your family? How do you kind of balance, work, life, family, whatever else you like to do?
Honestly, it's hard. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's very hard. Because I'm such a person to where I like to stay on top of things. And so I'm always connected to work some way, somehow. But as I mentioned earlier, being here, it helped me find that balance. Even though I had that balance in Austin when I needed to, like at some point or another, I would say, hey, look, I'm going to track practice on these days at this time. And because track was my commitment during the spring and the summertime, I say, hey, I'm leaving the office at such and such time, I'm going to track practice. And then afterwards, I go home, shower, eat, and I would jump back online. So it's kind of like just finding that balance. Just time management is very, very key. My parents were here visiting a couple of weeks ago. They were here for 3 weeks. And so although I was super busy at work with all my different tasks and stuff, I would like work from home some days or say, hey, I'm taking the morning off to show them around, and then I'll be in the office this afternoon. So I can say that it's good that I have not even just a position, but just the company I work for is so flexible to where I do have that balance. And then me knowing what I need to get done, I can balance the two between my personal and, work-life balance.
Very good. Very good. Tell the people if you're dating or not. I'm sure there's going to be somebody who comes across this video, whether it's your boyfriend or not boyfriend, or if you're dating or not dating, that probably wants to know.
I am not currently dating. Not gonna say I haven't dated since I've been here. I've dated 2 people since I've been here, but the most recent one ended probably like 2 months ago or so. So yeah, people are always approaching me. Of course, 90% of the time it's a man, but not dating anybody right now.
Got it.
I can't say in my relationships when I am dating somebody, work-life balance always comes up as an issue. So I have to do better. They're like, you're always working, you're always on your laptop.
Yes, that's an area that I think everyone, it's difficult, right? And incorporating what I found that helps me is incorporating my family into my life, into my work life. What I mean by that is, things like having Teresa coach me through like a sales opportunity or something like that, since she's been in sales, or having her read emails that I may send or want to send, and I may not be in the right state of mind to send it, right? Those are kind of things that I typically do just to keep my family engaged into what I'm doing at work. There's a lot of things going on, obviously, with Black Heights, but also I have a professional, real job as well too, right? And it's a new opportunity for me. So keeping her involved in everything that's going on works, but also at the same time, finding really odd hours of the day to do things. And what I mean by that is getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock, or it may be, midnight after they go to bed, after I've spent the time with them just to do things. And that means that I may suffer from a little bit of, not getting so much sleep, but at the end of the day, I'm not taking away time from them, right? That's really what's helped me.
Right.
So what are 1 or 2 pivotal points in your life that you would like to share that can help any person that comes across this video, whether it's career or professional, that you've experienced? Any 1 or 2 pivotal points in your life that you can share with the audience here?
Yeah, sure. Give me 1 second so I can plug in my computer to charger. You're gonna kill me.
No worries. And people who are watching, why don't you take this opportunity to like the video? Essence is certainly giving us a lot of gems when it comes to her professional life and things that she's experienced in her life, as well as taking the time out of her night to spend some time with us and share her story about her journey. So take the opportunity to like the video, and that'll be much appreciated. So Essence, let's get back to that question. It looks like you're plugged in now. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
1 or 2 pivotal points in your life that you would like to share that could help anybody who comes across this video.
I would say pivotal points in my life. I would probably say, that's a difficult question to answer. Definitely anytime you get a chance to do anything out of your comfort zone, definitely do it. You couldn't tell 18-year-old me that I would have been in South Africa for a month on an internship, or that I would be living in Malaysia for 2 years, and then, just traveling all of Southeast Asia. I would have never imagined my life being over here. So anytime you just get a chance to do anything outside your comfort zone, not even just work-wise, just even in your personal life, I can say I have come out of my comfort zone with eating. I used to be super picky. I'm far from picky now. But just take a leap out on faith and give every opportunity a chance, because you just never know where it's going to land you.
Okay, very good. That's a very good answer. And tell people what's next. Obviously, you talked about making a decision pretty soon, but what's short term and long term for you? Do you see yourself as being a CFO, a CEO one day? Kind of what's short and long term for yourself?
I don't have that desire, which is probably weird for a lot of people in finance. I don't have that desire to be a CFO. I do kind of want to venture out of revenue. Like, I feel like I still have a lot to learn just because there's a lot of new guidance coming out that's going to change a lot of things. I still feel like I have a lot to learn as being a manager. I've only been a manager for 2 years, so I still come up in the situations to where I feel like, oh, this was a learning point for me as a manager in developing. So I definitely want to stay in my role for now, definitely for at least another year or two, just I feel like I have a lot more I can get out of it. But ultimately, I feel like I kind of want to, after the fact, bounce around outside of revenue, although that's my expertise. Just so I don't want to be a CFO, but maybe a controller. And to be a controller, you have to be very familiar with all the different areas and not just focusing on one.
Got it. And one of the things you mentioned was, you're still learning as a manager, and which is another reason why, Black Heights was founded as well too, is to prepare. Give people what your experience was like. And this is the last question, by the way. We're at the 50-minute mark, and I like to keep it within 50 something minutes. But tell people what the typical, when you get promoted to a manager and you start to lead people, how do companies prepare you for that? Or is it go figure it out? Kind of what's been your experience like? I can tell you mine. Mine personally was, you're smart, you can figure it out. Right? And I think management is something that can be created. I think there's, more people who can become managers if they're prepared for it, and they would have better results. And at the end of the day, that's what management is about for me. Is the two principles of management is about getting results and retaining people, right? And to make sure that you're accomplishing your organizational goals, right? But preparation for that seems to be lacking in corporate America. Tell people about what your experience is like as getting the opportunity to manage people, and what did you go through?
I can say that I had a different experience than you, thank God. I think I kind of had taken ownership before I officially got promoted to manager. So when I got promoted, they were like, hey, I see good qualities in you, and you have what it takes. But I can say that my manager is a really good mentor. Even my first time having to fire somebody, because you have to think about if you were in the other person's shoes, right? Like, how do you deliver this performance review, or how do you deliver if you want to fire somebody or anything like that? You have to think about it if it was you. Like, no matter what your personal feelings are about that person or their work or anything, how would you want it to be delivered to you? So that was a big thing for me, is just communication as a manager and not as your peer. Just because sometimes I could probably write some emails and just be like, I don't know what you was thinking when you was doing this, but as a manager, you have to change that to where it's like, turn it into a coaching type of situation to where they feel like they're learning from you and not like, hey, you're doing this wrong. Okay. So luckily, I have a good manager to where she's a very great mentor, and I can go to her and say, hey, I really don't know how to handle this situation. What would you suggest? And she would say, this is how I would handle it, and then lead me to actually doing it. So I can say I have very good guidance for every time I come up to a roadblock. They gave me some trainings to take. I don't know if you've ever heard of manager tools, to where it's different podcasts that you can listen to on any type of situation you can think of. I had a very hard time. My hardest thing about being a manager was delegating. I will always be like, because obviously I was in the role of being the revenue analyst before I was the revenue manager. So instead of delegating, I'll be like, I can do this so much faster myself, instead of like letting the person under me do it. And I'm like, I need to get this done. And she's like, nope. One, they have to learn, and two, you need to be a manager and not, staying in that role. So you need to delegate. Go take that manager tool, listen to that podcast on delegation. And then listening, they have podcasts on one-on-one sessions, effective feedback. So I listened to a lot of podcasts, and then always went to my managers for advice. So I can definitely say that I've had good guidance.
That's good. No, that's wonderful. It's one of those things where I think having a mentor certainly will help you get through, especially if you're an intelligent person. And that's how I was able to get through it as well, was having a mentor. But if I was to look back, I had to prepare myself, right? So, thinking about that experience and also talking to others there's no sound place where, well, there is, right? You use the podcast like managers tools, right? But I haven't been able to find like a platform where you're giving the tools you need in a workshop platform to become a manager, and for companies to invest into you to become a manager and prepare you for that, right? That's one of the reasons I found it, Black Heights as well, based on, some of the principles that I've learned throughout my life as being a manager, but also as a leader as well, where every situation is different. And you talked about your situations, right, of having to potentially fire someone and how you communicate to people in email as a manager. I think preparing people ahead of time will help them deliver results a lot faster, especially where there's not that many, I would say, people of color in some of these roles like you and I see today. And that's just not with the companies that we work for, but with the companies that other people work for as well. And some of the friends that I've come across is how do we prepare people for these opportunities, and when they do get them, they get the results to continue to move to the next level of management and the next level of leadership positions within corporations. So,
yeah.
Wonderful, Essence. I will end it like this: is tell the people how you can be reached. If anybody came across this video and said, this is a wonderful lady who has a lot of experience, I'm moving to Southeast Asia. Do you have a Twitter, Instagram, email that you would want to share? And, if people wanted to reach out to get your experience, your advice, anything you would like to share?
You can reach me on LinkedIn under Essence Nance, ESSENCE, like herbal essence. Last name Nance, NANCE. Same on Facebook, and then also you can email me directly at enance89@gmail.com. So feel free. I'm always willing to talk about my experience or answer any questions, because I was at one time in your position as well. So I'm always willing to help.
Essence, I really appreciate the opportunity you gave us tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your career journey with Black Heights. And thank you all in the audience for watching. And we will see you all soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.